The quantum drive hummed beneath Captain Isabella Drake's feet as she stood on the bridge of the experimental vessel Phoenix, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the vast expanse of space before her. The ship, barely visible against the backdrop of stars, represented humanity's greatest technological achievement and their last hope against the Galactic Empire's tyranny. Multiple Imperial signatures detected at the edge of the Arcturus system, announced Lieutenant Raj Patel, his dark eyes narrowed at the sensor readings. "Looks like they've finally found us, Captain." Isabella's expression remained neutral, though her heart raced with anticipation. The Phoenix, with its revolutionary quantum-fold technology, had never been tested in actual combat. Today would change that. "How many ships, Lieutenant?" 23 capital ships, Captain, including their flagship, the Immortal Dawn. A low whistle came from the weapons station, where Chief Weapons Officer Kira Yoshida sat, her fingers already dancing across the haptic interface. "They really want us dead, don't they?" "They want what we represent dead," Isabella corrected, her voice steady. Status of the quantum core. Dr. Nikolai Volkov's voice came through the ship's comm system from engineering. His thick Russian accent carried a note of excitement despite the gravity of their situation. "Core is stable, Captain. All systems are operating at optimal parameters. We are ready to show these Empire dogs what human ingenuity can accomplish." Isabella allowed herself a small smile. The Phoenix represented 5 years of secret development, combining human determination with recovered alien technology. While the Empire's ships relied on conventional faster-than-light drives, the Phoenix could manipulate the very fabric of space-time itself. "Imperial vessels are launching fighters," Raj reported. "They're moving to surround us." On the main display, the Imperial fleet spread out in a classic encirclement pattern. Their massive ships, each one nearly 50 times the size of the Phoenix, moved with practiced precision. The Empire had conquered countless civilizations with these tactics, overwhelming their enemies with superior numbers and firepower. "This is Admiral Tsarketh of the Galactic Empire," a deep, resonant voice boomed through their communications system. "Your vessel has been designated as a threat to Imperial security. Surrender immediately, and your deaths will be quick." Isabella straightened her uniform jacket, a habit from her years in the Earth Defense Force. "Open a channel, Lieutenant." Once the link was established, she spoke clearly and confidently. "This is Captain Isabella Drake of the Earth vessel Phoenix. We acknowledge your presence in this system, Admiral. However, I suggest you reconsider your position. We have no desire for conflict, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." Laughter echoed through the bridge. Curious words from a species that refuses to accept its proper place in the galaxy. "Your primitive vessel against the might of the Empire. This will be brief." The channel closed, and Isabella's expression hardened. "Battle stations. Kira, charge all defensive systems. Raj, plot me a course through their formation. Dr. Volkov, prepare the quantum core for combat operations." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, their training taking over despite the overwhelming odds they faced. The Phoenix's systems came alive, energy coursing through its advanced circuitry as the quantum core's pitch changed to a higher frequency. "Imperial vessels are charging weapons," Raj announced. "Multiple target locks detected." Isabella took her command chair, her voice calm and assured. "Remember your training. We've prepared for this moment. The Empire thinks they know what they're dealing with. Let's show them how wrong they are." The first salvos from the Imperial fleet lit up space like artificial stars, thousands of energy bolts streaking toward the Phoenix. But Isabella had already set her plan in motion. "Quantum fold. Mark one," she ordered. The universe seemed to bend around them as Dr. Volkov activated their revolutionary drive. The Phoenix didn't just move through space. It folded reality itself, disappearing from the Empire's target locks and reappearing behind their formation. "Target their rear shields," Isabella commanded. "Show them what our graviton cannons can do." Kira's fingers flew across her console, and the Phoenix's main weapons discharged. Beams of concentrated gravitational force struck the nearest Imperial cruiser, crushing its shields and crumpling its hull like paper. The massive ship spun out of formation, secondary explosions rippling along its length. "Impossible." Admiral Tsarketh's voice crackled through their comms again, all traces of amusement gone. "All ships, concentrate fire. Destroy that vessel." But the Phoenix was already moving again, quantum folding through space faster than the Imperial targeting computers could track. Each jump brought them to a new firing position, each shot from their graviton cannons proving devastatingly effective against the Empire's supposedly superior technology. "Their formation is breaking," Raj reported, excitement creeping into his voice. 3 ships heavily damaged, 2 more with critical shield failures. Isabella leaned forward in her chair. "Time to show them our full capabilities. Dr. Volkov, initiate the quantum cascade sequence." "With pleasure, Captain," the engineer replied. Quantum cascade in 3, 2, 1. The Phoenix's quantum core pulsed, sending out waves of distorted spacetime that rippled through the Imperial fleet. Ships caught in the effect found their shields failing as local space-time fluctuated wildly around them. Weapons fire went wild, passing through suddenly stretched or compressed space to miss their targets entirely. "By the eternal void," Admiral Tsarketh's voice was barely a whisper. "What are you?" Isabella stood from her chair, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's determination. "We are what you made us, Admiral. You thought humans were primitive beneath your notice. You demanded our submission, threatened our worlds, and expected us to bow before your technological superiority." She paused, watching as another Imperial cruiser succumbed to the Phoenix's weapons. "Instead, we adapted, we evolved, and now we're showing you exactly what humanity is capable of when pushed too far." The battle continued for another 20 minutes, but its outcome was never in doubt. The Phoenix danced through quantum space, striking with precision and power that the Empire's ships couldn't match. When Admiral Tsarketh finally called a retreat, half his fleet lay in ruins. As the surviving Imperial ships fled into hyperspace, Isabella looked around at her crew. Pride swelled in her chest at their performance, at what they'd achieved together. "Send a message to Earth Command," she ordered. Tell them the Phoenix has proven itself. And let them know that this is just the beginning." The Empire had ruled the galaxy through fear and overwhelming force for centuries. But as the Phoenix's quantum core hummed in triumph, a new age was dawning. One where humanity would prove that determination and ingenuity could overcome any odds. The spark of revolution had been lit, and its fire would spread across the stars. Grand Admiral Vexler stood before the massive viewport of his personal flagship, the Retribution, his skilled hands clasped behind his back as he watched the repair crews work on the damaged Imperial vessels. The defeat at Arcturus had sent shockwaves through the Empire's military hierarchy, and now the most decorated commander in Imperial history had been called to handle this human problem. "Display the battle footage again," he commanded, his voice carrying the cold precision that had made him legendary among Imperial forces. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the Phoenix's impossible maneuvers during the engagement. "Commander Zelara, his tactical officer, stepped forward. Her crystalline skin reflected the starlight as she analyzed the footage. The humans have developed something extraordinary, Admiral. Our scientists believe they've somehow weaponized quantum mechanics itself. Extraordinary, Vexthor termed his silver eyes narrowing. What's extraordinary is that we allowed these primitives to advance this far. This Captain Drake and her vessel aren't just a military threat. They're a symbol. Already, 3 subjugated systems have begun showing signs of rebellion. On board the Phoenix, Isabella Drake was facing challenges of her own. The ship's revolutionary quantum core had begun showing signs of strain after their first major engagement. The temporal feedback is worse than we anticipated, Dr. Volkov reported, his holographic image floating above the bridge's tactical table. Each fold creates microscopic tears in spacetime. If we're not careful, we could cause a cascade failure. Isabella frowned, studying the complex equations scrolling across the display. How long until we can safely engage in combat again? 48 hours, minimum. We need to recalibrate the containment fields and strengthen the quantum buffers. Lieutenant Raj interrupted, his voice urgent. Captain, long-range sensors are picking up something. A massive Imperial fleet just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Helios sector. They're heading for the Epsilon colony. Isabella's blood ran cold. Epsilon colony was one of humanity's oldest off-world settlements, home to millions of civilians. How many ships? Over 50 capital ships, led by a sovereign-class dreadnought. Intelligence identifies it as the Retribution. Captain, Grand Admiral Vexthor is commanding personally. The name sent a chill through the bridge. Vexthor was known throughout the galaxy as the Empire's most ruthless and effective commander. His campaigns had crushed dozens of rebellions, often by targeting civilian populations to break his opponent's will to fight. We can't let them reach Epsilon, Kira said, voicing what everyone was thinking. But the quantum core isn't ready, Dr. Volkov finished. Using it now could tear the ship apart. Isabella stood, her decision already made. Plot an intercept course, maximum conventional speed. We'll have to face them without our quantum advantages. Captain, Reg protested. That's suicide. Even with our advanced shields and graviton cannons, we can't take on a fleet that size in conventional combat. We can't, Isabella agreed, but we don't need to win. We just need to buy enough time for Epsilon to evacuate. She activated the ship-wide comm. All hands, this is the captain. I won't lie to you. We're about to face overwhelming odds without our greatest advantage. But there are millions of innocent lives counting on us. The Empire needs to learn that humanity doesn't abandon its own. The Phoenix streaked through space, pushing its conventional drives to their limits. As they approached the Imperial fleet, Isabella refined her desperate plan. They couldn't quantum fold, but they still had other advantages, technologies and tactics the Empire had never encountered. Kira, reconfigure the graviton cannons for wide dispersion firing. Raj, plot attack vectors that keep us within their formation. They won't risk firing their heaviest weapons if it means hitting their own ships. Dr. Volkov, give me everything you can from the conventional drives. We need to be faster and more maneuverable than they expect. On the Retribution's bridge, Vexthor watched the lone human vessel approach with cold amusement. So, the famous Phoenix comes to die. Prepare all weapons, but do not fire until I give the command. I want to savor this moment. The space between the fleets vanished rapidly as the Phoenix charged forward. At the last possible moment, Isabella gave her first command. Deploy the mirror drones. Dozens of small devices erupted from the Phoenix's launch tubes, each one generating sophisticated holographic projections of the ship. The Imperial fleet's targeting systems suddenly had to track multiple possible targets, all executing different attack patterns. Clever, Vexthor admitted as his gunners reported confusion, but ultimately futile. All ships initialize the quantum dampening field. A wave of energy spread out from the Imperial fleet, their counter to the Phoenix's quantum technology. But Isabella had anticipated this. Now Kira, wide-spectrum graviton burst. The Phoenix's main weapons fired, not targeting any specific ship, but instead creating a massive gravitational distortion throughout the Imperial formation. Ships suddenly found themselves pulled in multiple directions, their carefully maintained formation dissolving into chaos. Impossible. Solara exclaimed as warning alerts blared across the Retribution. They're fighting effectively without their quantum technology. Vexthor's expression darkened. These humans are more resourceful than we thought, but they're still just one ship. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for generations to come. The Phoenix wove through the Imperial formation like a needle through fabric, its conventional weapons striking with surgical precision at critical systems. Every time the Empire's superior numbers should have spelled their doom, Isabella's crew found another innovation, another tactic that shouldn't have worked but did. But they were still badly outnumbered, and eventually their luck began to run out. A concentrated blast from 3 Imperial cruisers overwhelmed their shields, sending the Phoenix spinning. Damage reports flooded in as emergency systems activated. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. Raj reported, "We've lost 30% of our weapon systems." Dr. Volkov's voice crackled through damaged comm systems. "Captain, the quantum core is showing signs of stability. We might be able to manage one fold, but the risk of catastrophic failure would be extreme." Isabella looked at her tactical display. They'd managed to delay the Imperial fleet for nearly 2 hours, and Epsilon's evacuation ships were already jumping to safety. They'd accomplished their mission, but at a terrible cost. "All hands, prepare for quantum fold," she ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "Let's show Admiral Vexthor one last surprise." "Captain," Dr. Volkov warned, "if we do this—" "I know, Doctor, but we're not finished yet. The Empire needs to learn that humanity doesn't just fight. We inspire, and sometimes inspiration is worth any price." As the Phoenix's quantum core spun up for what might be its final activation, Isabella Drake stood on her burning bridge, facing the massive form of the Retribution. Win or lose, survive or not, today would mark the beginning of a new chapter in humanity's struggle for freedom. The revolution had found its heart of steel, and the galaxy would never be the same. The price of defiance. The quantum fold that should have torn the Phoenix apart instead ripped a hole in the fabric of space-time itself. As emergency klaxons blared throughout the ship, Isabella Drake watched in astonishment as both her vessel and the massive Imperial flagship Retribution were pulled into a swirling vortex of quantum energy. "Status report." She called out, steadying herself against her command chair as reality twisted around them. "The quantum core is stabilizing." Dr. Volkov's voice held equal parts confusion and excitement. "Captain, we've created some kind of persistent quantum tunnel. We're traveling through folded space, but the ship is holding together." Through the Phoenix's viewports, space itself seemed to ripple and flow like liquid metal. The Retribution, caught in the same phenomenon, floated less than a kilometer away, its weapons systems offline as it struggled with the strange environment. "This is unprecedented," Commander Zilara whispered on the Retribution's bridge, her crystalline form reflecting the bizarre energies surrounding them. The humans have accidentally discovered quantum space travel. Admiral Vexthor's silver eyes narrowed as he studied the phenomenon. Not accidentally, he corrected. They've pushed the boundaries of physics itself, trying to survive our assault. The question is, can they control it? Isabella was asking herself the same question. The Phoenix's systems were operating in ways their designers had never intended, drawing power from the quantum distortion itself. Dr. Volkov, can we navigate in here? Theoretically, yes. The quantum core is adapting to this environment. But, Captain, we're picking up something else. Other signatures in this space. We're not alone. Before anyone could process this information, massive shapes began emerging from the quantum mists around them. Ships, but unlike anything humanity or the Empire had ever encountered. Their hulls seemed to shift and change, defying normal space. By the eternal void, Vexthor breathed. The precursors. The legends were true. Ancient vessels of the galaxy's first spacefaring race, long thought extinct, surrounded both ships. Their presence here, in this quantum realm, suggested they hadn't disappeared. They transcended normal space itself. A voice echoed through both ships, not through communication systems, but directly into the minds of every crew member. You have breached the veil between spaces. Now you must prove worthy of the knowledge you've gained. Echoes of humanity. The precursor ships herded both the Phoenix and the Retribution deeper into quantum space, toward what appeared to be a massive structure floating in the void, a station or facility that defied conventional physics. They're scanning us, Reg reported, his hands flying over his console. Our quantum core. They seem particularly interested in it. The voice came again. Your species fight in normal space, bringing your conflicts into the higher realms. Yet you have discovered quantum manipulation independently. Interesting. Isabella stood at her command station, mind racing. This encounter could change everything. Not just the war with the Empire, but humanity's understanding of the universe itself. We seek knowledge, she transmitted, both verbally and mentally. We developed this technology to defend ourselves, but its potential goes far beyond warfare. On the Retribution, Vexthor felt his carefully constructed worldview crumbling. The Empire had always justified its rule by claiming technological and cultural superiority. Yet here were humans, supposedly primitive, who had not only matched imperial technology, but exceeded it in ways that had led them to this extraordinary discovery. The precursor voice held a note of amusement. Your thoughts betray you, Imperial One. Your certainty wavers. Good. Growth begins with doubt. The massive structure began to glow, pulling both ships into what appeared to be a docking facility. As they settled into place, the voice continued, You will both be tested. The outcome will determine not just your fates, but the path your species will walk among the stars. What followed was beyond anything either crew had experienced. The precursors subjected both ships to a series of challenges that tested not just their technological capabilities, but their creativity, adaptability, and moral character. The Phoenix's crew demonstrated remarkable innovation, finding unique solutions to problems that seemed impossible. The Imperial crew showed discipline and determination, but their rigid hierarchical thinking often hindered them. Observe, the precursor voice noted during one particularly difficult test. The humans collaborate, share ideas freely, question assumptions. The Imperials seek permission, follow protocols, fear failure. Both approaches have value, but evolution requires flexibility. Part 5. Dawn of a New Era. The final test came without warning. Both ships found themselves ejected from the precursor facility, back in normal space, but far from where they'd entered. Before them hung a populated world, unknown to either group, clearly in crisis. Massive solar flares threatened its civilization with extinction. "Choose," the precursor voice commanded. "Save them together, or continue your war. Your decision will ripple through centuries." Isabella didn't hesitate. "This is Captain Drake to the Retribution. Admiral Vexter, we need to coordinate our efforts. The Phoenix's quantum core can modify the solar flares, but we'll need your ship's power systems to stabilize the reaction." On his bridge, Vexter stood in silence for a long moment. Generations of imperial doctrine warred with what he'd learned in quantum space. Finally, he spoke. "This is Admiral Vexter. The Retribution stands ready to assist." Working together, the two ships accomplished what neither could have done alone. The Phoenix's quantum technology, combined with the Retribution's massive power plant, created a shield that saved millions of lives. As the crisis passed, the precursor voice returned one final time. "You have proven worthy of evolution. The knowledge we share comes with responsibility. Use it wisely." Both ships found themselves downloaded with vast databases of precursor technology, but it was technology that required cooperation to utilize fully. Neither humanity nor the Empire could access its full potential alone. Admiral Vexter opened a channel to the Phoenix. "Captain Drake, it seems we have much to discuss." Isabella smiled. "Indeed we do, Admiral. I suggest we start with how to convince both our peoples that the future lies in cooperation, not conquest." "The Empire has ruled through force for millennia," Vexter noted. "Change will not come easily." "Nothing worth doing ever does," Isabella replied. "But we've seen what's possible when we work together, and now we have the means to show others." As both ships set course for neutral space to begin negotiations, Isabella reflected on their journey. What had begun as humanity's desperate bid for survival had evolved into something far greater, a chance to reshape the galaxy itself. The Phoenix and the Retribution, once mortal enemies, now flew side by side toward an uncertain but promising future. Behind them, in quantum space, the precursors watched with satisfaction as the first steps toward a new era of galactic civilization were taken. The revolution hadn't just succeeded, it had transcended its original purpose, becoming something greater than anyone could have imagined. And somewhere in quantum space, ancient beings nodded in approval as their newest students began their journey toward the stars.